Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. Brian, Mr. Smith Kitchen, as always. And today, I said last week that I didn't know for sure what I was going to bake, but I thought we're going to do cheesecake. I love cheesecake. I can never get enough cheesecake. It is truly my one weakness, and I wish at times I'd never learned how to bake one, because now I can bake one whenever I want. I'm going to end up weighing 600 pounds if I'm not careful. But that being said, I think this cheesecake is going to be amazing. We're going to do a chocolate chip cheesecake, chocolate chip cookie and cookie dough cheesecake. And we'll get into some of the nuances of that. This has edible cookie dough in it. You can either, in that case, buy it from the store, or you can make your own. I made my own, and I'm going to do a separate video on that. It's not hard, but I wanted to try to keep this video as short as possible. I know my videos can run long most of the time, so anytime I can try to not get something in there, that's not horribly relevant, or there's an alternative to, I definitely do that, so that way we don't have that problem. But I found 2 or 3 different recipes that I thought were equally good and brought something to the table, and I kind of mashed them all together to make one that I thought that we would enjoy. And so we're going to give it a shot. But anyhow, if you're new to my channel and this is your first video, welcome. Glad you stopped by. I hope you get something out of this video. Check out some of my other videos, even possibly subscribe. That being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and that way our community grows. We are a community of good neighbors based around food and communication. Talking is important. Family time is important. We try to really, hone in on that here on this channel. The basis of family and food and the importance of both. So that being said, at any rate, I will give you your measurements in cups, tablespoons, teaspoons, also in grams. That way everybody can play along, or at least the majority of everybody can play along. If there is a different way to measure out there that I don't know about, just let me know down in the comments, or check us out on Facebook, Mr. Smith's Kitchen Facebook group, and you can leave me a comment there, or share a recipe, whatever you like to do. It's an open group, it's a public forum. There's no questions asked to even be a part of the group. You just join. So that being said, let's go down to the counter and we will go over what we'll need for this and start making a cheesecake. Alright, hold on for me 1 second. Okay, so we're down here to the counter, and some things you will need. You will definitely need a scale. As always, when we're baking, scales are essential. They're important, right? I mean, you can use them anytime. I use one for so many things. When I buy meat, because I buy it in bulk, I want to break it up into, like, my hamburger into 1 pound packages. Boom, scale. Baking, scale. Just anything, really. Second thing you'll need is a springform pan, 9-inch. Springform means there's a little latch on the side here, and this will pop apart. That's important. Now, some people will tell you when making cheesecakes to line the bottom of your pan with parchment paper. I have never had a problem with any of my cheesecakes sticking, and I think parchment paper is harder to get off when it comes to cheesecakes. So I don't, but you are more than welcome to. Like I said, there are some people that will tell you to put a liner in the bottom of this every time. The other things you'll need, you will need at least a bowl or 2. I'm using 1 bowl, but then I have my stand mixer off camera that I'm going to use, but we'll get to that here in a second. So the first thing we need to do is make our crust, right? So our crust is simply 3 ingredients. The first ingredient is going to be chocolate chips. Now you can make your own cookies. I did not. So my weakness as far as pre-made cookies go is Chips Ahoy chocolate chip, the original cookies, the hard ones, the solid ones. I have a true weakness for those. So those are my favorite store-bought chocolate chip cookies. That's what I'm making my crust out of. And I should also mention I'm not sponsored by Chips Ahoy in any way, or Nabisco, or whoever it is that makes them. I just really like their cookies. So what I did was, in that bag, I put my cookies in there, and then I took this mallet and I just crushed them. And it's okay if you've got some bigger chunks in there, but I just crushed mine up so that way we can make our dough with it. The next thing we will need to put in this is that is 2 cups, 220-ish grams. It's around 24 cookies if you're using the Chips Ahoy ones. If not, I mean, well, cookies are your choice, but it's 2 cups, 220-ish grams, all the same. To that, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons, 45 grams of just plain old sugar. Right, same stuff you put in your cereal. And then I'm going to take 5 tablespoons, 73 grams of melted butter, and we're going to pour that in. And then I'm going to grab a glove real quick, which is located right here. Now, you can do all this in a food processor. Matter of fact, I usually grind up my cookies or whatever it is I'm using in the food processor. But I didn't this time. I just wanted to do it the old school way and not dirty a dish. You can also combine your butter in your whatever medium you're using, chocolate chip cookies, graham crackers, whatever it is, in the food processor also. I struggle with that for whatever reason and find it hard to get the butter to disperse evenly, so I just go ahead and put it in here. Now, I should mention this prior to. You want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees because we're going to put this in the oven for just a few minutes. Get those chocolate chips to melt a little, the butter to fully incorporate in there, and then we'll pull it out, and as it cools, we'll make our filling, and that'll give our crust a good solid, hankering. You don't have to bake this crust. You can just put it in the fridge for a minute, leave it in the fridge while you make your filling, but I like to bake one for whatever reason. All right, so we're going to take our springform pan. We'll put our crust in there. Right there's our crust. Like I said, if you have a chocolate chip cookie recipe you like, rock on, use that. You don't necessarily have to, buy store-bought. You could make this completely from scratch. I just didn't because, like I said, I really like those cookies, and I wanted to use that as my crust base instead. So we got this in here like such, and you want to make sure it's good and firmly pressed down. And my oven's not quite ready yet, so we will talk about what we're going to do with this crust. So after we get this firmly packed down, and you'll see some people use a cup to make sure this is firmly packed down. I do not, and I've never had a problem otherwise by not using a cup. I just simply use my hand to put all my weight on it, and then that way I know it's nice and even. It's packed tightly. I mean, because what happens if you don't pack it tightly, especially with graham cracker crust, if you're making a pie, they can stay loose when you bake them. But I've never had a problem either way. Maybe I'm just, I got enough backhand pressure to make them firm. I don't know. But anyhow, I digress. So what we're going to do is, now that we've got that made, see how quick and easy that was? Once my oven is finished preheating, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the oven at 350 degrees, and I'm going to let it bake for about 8 minutes. And not very long at all, just enough to give it maybe a little light brown, a little lighter brown to it, give it that baked look. And then when I come back, we will have pulled it out of the oven, and we'll start making the filling. All right, I'll see you here in 1 second. Okay, so our crust is out of the oven, and we're going to go ahead and take our oven and take it from 350 to 325, which is going to tell me it's already 325 because it's 350. But right there is our crust. And now, I know I didn't show you before it went in the oven, but you'll see if you make your crust, when you make your crust, it was kind of, even though there were big chunks in it, blah, blah, blah. But if you notice that right there, it was nice and smooth. It's because all that butter got into that cookie and basically made it mush, and now we've turned it into a crust base. So now we're going to move on to make our filling. Excuse me. Jeez a Pete. So to make our filling, first thing we're going to need is 3 8-ounce blocks, 24 ounces, 678 grams of cream cheese, and we want that at room temperature. So all your dairy in this recipe, like most baking recipes, are room temperature. You want to leave it set out for at least a couple hours, and when you do that, if you're gonna, depending on, how long, well, it doesn't matter how long you're gonna set it out, you want to cover it, with a saran wrap or put it in a container or something like that to let it get up to room temperature. That way, your cream cheese in this case doesn't yellow, because it will yellow. It just like butter turns a darker color if you leave it set out unwrapped. Same thing will happen with your cream cheese. And to this, we're going to add 3/4 cup, 150 grams of just plain old regular everyday sugar, right? Granulated sugar. And we are going to mix this on a medium for about 3 to 5 minutes. We want to get that cream cheese super creamy and get that sugar really incorporated into it. So we'll let this run for about 3-5 minutes, and then we'll put some more ingredients in. Okay, so we got our cream cheese and sugar mix, nice and fluffy and creamy and smooth. Now if you've got like little itty bitty chunks of cream cheese in there, it's okay. That will melt, but cream cheese is not like a normal cheese. It does not like to melt, so to speak. So you want to make sure there's no big lumps in there right now. So that way, because we're going to keep mixing with stuff, but big lumps have a tendency to not disappear if you don't get them out in the beginning. But if your cream cheese is properly warmed, you won't have that problem. Now, we'll give this a good mix real quick just to make sure we are where we need to be. And it doesn't hurt to stop and scrape your bowl while you're mixing, this part. You got 3 to 5 minutes. It should get everything, but you never know. You just never know. So we're in good shape there. Got it nice and creamy. So the next thing we need to do is add 3 more ingredients to this bad boy. We are going to add 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of vanilla. And try to use a pure vanilla, a baker's vanilla. Baker's vanilla is amazing, and it will hold its flavor while baking. Even a good vanilla extract, if it's not a baker style vanilla, will not always hold its flavor. So, and then after we add that vanilla, I just added some sour cream. We put in a 1/2 cup, 110 grams of sour cream, and then the last thing we're going to add at the moment is some heavy cream, some heavy whipping cream, 1/4 cup or 55 milliliters, 55 grams. We'll get that put in there, and then we're going to mix this on low. All right, so when making a cheesecake, you don't ever want to go above like medium at the most, because we don't want to incorporate a bunch of air into this. We end up with a fluffy cheesecake. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this on a low, medium low at most, like number 2 on the stand mixer. Until it's incorporated, and then we can add our eggs. Okay, so we're good and incorporated, so I'm going to take this down to a low, and I've got 3 large eggs, 50 grams a piece for 150 grams, and what we're going to do is we're going to put these in one at a time, and we're going to let it go until we can no longer see the yellow. It'll be mixed in. Then we can put our next 2 eggs in. We'll do that one at a time. Alright, so we've got our eggs in and well combined. We will go ahead, we're going to give this another quick scrape down. And then we're pretty much done with the mixer for the moment, because the next 2 ingredients we're going to fold in. There is that. Matter of fact, let me get this mixer out of the way. I'll be right back in just 1 second. Okay, so we got this folded, right, or scraped, and made sure we have no big lumps or clumps or bumps or anything like that. And we are looking super smooth, super smooth. So the next thing we're going to add to this is 3/4 cup of mini chocolate chips, which was 130 grams, right? Let me look. I guess I swear I wrote this down at one point, but I guess I didn't. Yeah, 85 plus 42, 127 grams of mini semi-sweet chocolate chips. Now, I mean, you can use any kind of chocolate, mini chocolate chip you like. Milk chocolate, semi-sweet, whatever suits your fancy. You can even use like a white chocolate chip. You can even use a full chocolate chip, not even a mini. So we're going to get that folded in real quick. Just like such. And then the last ingredient for this, and this is what I was talking about earlier. I made my own cookie dough, right? And it's an edible cookie dough. It doesn't have any eggs in it. And then I just simply froze it. Now, you could just as easily buy store-bought cookie dough, and I am going to do a video on how to make edible cookie dough, because I think that would be fun to just sit around and eat cookie dough. We did it all the time as a kid, and it wasn't considered the edible kind. But I took 2/3 of my batch, which is roughly, I'm going to say about 400 grams worth of cookie dough. I made them into pita blueberry sized balls. We're going to put that in there. I'll have an exact number written down right here for sure. And we'll go ahead and get that mixed in. We'll fold it in. Yeah, like such. Got that folded in. I am so excited. I cannot wait. Now, one thing I did debate on with this recipe was with the sugar, do I add a little brown sugar to it? Instead, take out some of the white sugar and put in some brown sugar. And I didn't see a recipe that included that, so this time around I played it safe just to see how it would work. I am going to make this a second time though, and I would like to try it with brown sugar. So, anyhow, that being said, we'll set that back to the side. Our pan is cool enough I can at least grab it. So we'll need some aluminum foil because we're going to water bath this. And although I did see a really cool way to do this, well, I read about a really cool way to do this with water bath that would ensure that you never get any water in your dough at all, or in your pan at all. Although if you use the larger, like I think it's 16 inches wide foil, you shouldn't get any water in your pan as long as it doesn't have a tear in it. But one of the recipes I was reading, the lady gives an option to put your 9-inch springform pan inside of a 10-inch cake pan, which I don't own a 10-inch cake pan, believe it or not, and then stick that in the water bath. That way you're guaranteed to not get any water in it at all. But that is a useful tip. And if and when I ever need a 10-inch pan and I buy one, I know I'll have one to be able to do that with. But if I don't need it, I don't own it, basically. So we got our foil on there. Want to get that done before we go and put our batter in there. That's done. Now we can pour our batter in. I got our batter in, so now we'll smooth it out. And I'm just going to use the back of my spatula. You can use an offset spatula, you can use a spoon, but I figured, you know, I've already got the rubber spatula here, getting it dirty. And smooth that out real quick, just like such. Then we will take our pan and we're going to bang it on the counter. Make sure we don't have any air bubbles in it that need to come out. Alright, got that going. So the next thing we will need is a couple things. We're going to take our pan, we're going to set it right like such inside a roasting pan. You at least want a pan that's at least 1.5 inches deep and will hold your 9-inch springform pan comfortably. And next thing we're going to do is fill this with water, but I'll be right back because I did not get anything to put water in. Hold on for me 1 second. Okay, so we got our, I got my water. Sorry about that delay. I'm always forgetting something. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up our oven, right? We got it set at 325. It's ready to go because we had it at 350. Before we put the water in, just to be safe, we're going to put our pan down here first. So we got our pan down there, and then we're going to add our water, and we're going to fill it up. So it's about an inch and a half high, which will take, in my case, about a quart and a half of water. And what you don't want to do, especially if you're using a tall pan, is fill it all the way up to the very edge of the cake, in case it starts to bubble, but you want enough water in there that it doesn't dry out. So we got our water in there. We're going to go ahead and get this shut, maybe. Go. Get the oven shut, set the timer, and then we'll talk about what we're doing. Okay, so quick and easy, right? Now here's where the practice of patience comes in. As always with all cheesecakes, we're going to let this bake in this cheesecake's case for 65 to 75 minutes. And like all other cheesecakes, I'm going to check it at 65 minutes. I'll open up the door and I'll wiggle the pan a little bit. And we're looking for the cake to be set going in, right, from the outer edges into the center. And it should just jiggle slightly in the center and have a little moisture on top. But for the most part, be golden brown, right? So we're looking for golden brown, set along the edges, a little slightly jiggly in the middle, and that could take 65 to 75 minutes depending on your oven, because all ovens are different, right? So that's what we're looking for. And if memory serves me with cheesecakes, if you want to temperature test it, you're looking at about 185 degrees. I'll double check that and leave it right here for you, so that way we'll know for certain. But I'm almost positive it's 185 degrees for cheesecakes in the center to be set properly. Once that timer goes off and it's set, I'm going to simply turn the oven off. I'm going to crack the oven door and let it sit in there for an additional 30 minutes. The key to cheesecake, especially getting them to not crack, is to cool them slow. We want to bake them on a low temperature and cool them slowly. So when I come back, we'll get this out of the oven, take a look at it, see what happens, and then we'll talk about what to do next. All right, I'll see you here in just a second. Okay, so we let her bake 75 minutes. I gave it a jiggle test. We were good, barely moving in the center. And then I turned the oven off, left it in there, cracked the oven door, just like we discussed a second ago, and let it sit in there for about 30 minutes to slowly cool. And then I took it out of the oven, right? So I got it out of the water bath, got the foil off the top of it, and let's take a look at it. Because there's a couple cool things that happen. And so what we want to do now is, it's actually cool enough to touch, but if you can see, it did do some cracking on the top, but it's very light. And I can show you how to fix that, but we got to let it cool first. So the next thing that we want to do is we're going to take a offset spatula, a knife, something, and while it's still warm, we're going to bring this in and we're going to run it around the edge, right? That way we know we are getting it's not attached to the pan at all, right? That's all part of the cooling process. I'm not going to say you absolutely have to do this, but it does help. Because what can happen is your cake, as it cools, it's naturally going to shrink, right? So as it shrinks, if you're not paying attention, parts of it will stick to the sides, which can cause it to crack. So cracking, in my mind, is never horrible. You don't want like giant craters, but you don't want, something like that where it's just lightly on the top. Great. But like I said, as it cools and it starts to shrink, well, if it stays stuck to the sides, what's going to happen is those cracks will open up and go deep. That you don't really want. I still believe it can be fixed, but you don't really want it. Plus, at least with most of the cheesecakes I make, we put something on the top anyhow, so you'll never see the cracks. But anyhow, so the next things we need to do is we're just going to let this sit here and cool to room temperature. And that takes about an hour or two, right? no different than anything else. I mean, we were a half hour ahead of the game because we let it sit there for a half hour. And when I came back to my oven had cooled down to pretty much room temperature. Now we're just going to let this finish cooling down to room temperature because it's still warm, just not so hot that I can't touch it. Once that hits room temperature, I'm going to put some plastic wrap over the top, down on it, which I'll show you when we take it out of the fridge. And then I'm going to put it in the fridge for 8 hours, preferably overnight, which overnight in theory is 8 hours. And 8 to 10 hours, depending on how much you sleep. Because, right, the idea is you've baked this cake in the evening, you let it cool, you put it in the fridge, you go on about your day, you go about your night, you go to bed, get up the next day, it should be ready to go. But I'm going to say 8 to 10 hours because right now it's 8 o'clock in the morning, so by 6:30 tonight, this should be solid. But we want it to be firm and completely chilled at any rate. So when I come back, we can move on to the last few steps of decorating this bad boy. I'm going to let it cool to room temp, plastic wrap, fridge. When I come back, we'll decorate, try a slice. Alright, see you here in just a second. Alright, so it's actually the next morning. We let that cheesecake sit in there all night long. And it looks gorgeous. So now all we have left to do is just put a few toppings on it, and then we can, and I'm going to show you how to fix a crack if you have a crack in the top. It's really easy to do. So let me get down to the counter real quick, get us down to the counter real quick, and we'll get started on these last few minute things, and then we can try a piece. All right, hold on for me 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're down here at the counter. Got our cheesecake. Here is how we turned out. I think she looks quite wonderful. But if you'll notice, there are still, I fixed some of the cracks, but there's still a couple cracks left. So what we want to do is this. We're going to take our, sorry I'm off camera, but I'm going to take my offset spatula. You could even use the back of a spoon for that matter. And I'm going to get it warm with some water, dry it off, and then you just come through and you simply spread over it. Now you don't want to sit here and dig right into it. You want to go across it in a rather wide pattern, because if you don't, then you're going to end up putting a divot in. Yeah, like I did there. See how it divots in? But that's okay. And like I said, with at least most of my cheesecakes, they get toppings on them, so you never see that. If you want to do the side, you do the same thing. You warm it up, and you run your offset spatula or knife or spoon or whatever it is you have, back of your spoon, and you just run it across the sides, and it smooths out any rough spots you have. You may have had a cheesecake that sticks, to the side a little bit, or got a little banged up while you were running your spatula through it, to make sure it didn't stick. You just simply warm your offset spatula, your knife, or whatever it is you have available on it, and then it smooths out wherever you need to be, or it gets rid of some light cracking on the top. Now, like I said, if you have a gorge in the middle of your cheesecake, that's probably not going to work. Alright, so we got our cracks fixed. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some dollops on here. Yeah. Maybe not a bunch of dollops, but some all the same. Alright, we got our dollops on there. Looking beautiful. So the next thing I want to put on here, personally, I crushed up some more of my cookies, the same cookies we made the base with. Only this time I didn't powder them. They're just literally chunks. I want to put those on there. Just like such. We got our cookies on there. Yeah, this is my favorite part of making any cheesecake, because even if you follow somebody's recipe to a T, here's where you can get creative and make it your own. And that's to me is the best part. This is where everybody goes, ooh, ah. Presentation is a lot. I mean, it's got to taste good too, but presentation, unless of course we're just, feeding family, whatever. But in this case, this is for, a dear friend of our family's that we've known for decades. Well, at least I have at any rate. So we want it to look decent, right? I mean, it's not perfect. I'm off the edge here a little bit with my stars and things like that, but that's okay. So very last thing I want to put on there is some of these wonderful little edible cookie dough balls that we put in the ingredients. So there we are. I think we can call this one complete. What do you think, guys? I think it looks fantastic. So let me get the camera moved and we will go ahead and cut us a piece and give it a try. Hold on for me 1 second. All right, got everything, camera moved, and we are ready to cut. Now, one thing nobody ever seems to tell you about cheesecakes when you're serving them. Let them sit out for about 5-10 minutes before you go to cut to serve. That way you can cut through it easily. Now remember, your cheesecake has been sitting in the fridge, for at least 8 hours, maybe a little longer. Like in this case, I mean, this thing sat in there probably 14-15 hours before I took it out of the pan, which is okay. And I'm warming my knife and cleaning it. What you want to do try to do between every cut. It just gives you a cleaner cut. But, so you cut it, if you take it right out of the fridge and cut it, what happens is your crust is still firm because you got that butter in there. And while it's not a horrible thing, but you want it to be easy to cut. So wow, that looks amazing. If you let it sit out for a few minutes and let that butter that's in the crust warm up, makes it a whole lot easier to cut. That's what I get around to. So there's what the inside of our cake looks like, minus the cookie that fell in there. Move that out of the way. And there is our piece of cake. I think it looks really, really, really good. I cannot wait to try this bad boy. So let's move you up here so I can see your face, because I like to see your face. You are precious and wonderful all the time. Now that's all that's left to do is see how much this really tastes like a chocolate chip cookie and cookie dough. That, my friends, is a fantastic cheesecake. I mean, just fantastic. Not only does it look good, but it tastes as good as it looks. Oh, wow. It's not even overly rich. It's just rich enough. I'm sorry. I'm going to eat one more bite and then we'll talk about it. If you like chocolate chip cookies, and who doesn't, right? This is right up your alley. This is probably one of the best cheesecakes, just flavor-wise and presentation-wise, I've made to date. And as you may know, on this channel we've made a lot of cheesecakes, a lot of pretty cheesecakes. It tastes wonderful. But the texture of the cheesecake itself is so silky smooth. You've got the chocolate chips in there and the cookie dough that just knock it out of the park. Some of the other recipes, there was only a couple, 2-3 recipes for a chocolate chip cookie cheesecake at all. This was actually partially a cookie dough cheesecake that I kind of made my own, but not by much, because I really wanted a chocolate chip cookie cheesecake. But that, with the cookie dough in there, just adds, it knocks it out of the park. It tastes just like a chocolate chip cookie that way. I didn't see a whole lot in any of the other recipes for just a chocolate chip cookie cheesecake that made it a chocolate chip cookie. There was no brown sugar in it really to speak of. None of that butter flavor, any of that. Where this with the cookie dough, bam. Um, you've got to try this. I mean, I'm not playing. You've got to try this. Let me know if you do. Let me know if you do something a little different. Or what is your favorite kind of chocolate chip cookie that you would use on this? Because you should just as easily use a homemade chocolate chip cookie. But as I have said in previous videos, my chocolate chip cookie skills, along with macarons of all things, chocolate chip cookies, I have not found the perfect chocolate chip cookie recipe yet. So I always, when it comes to chocolate chip cookies, at least for me, that's the one store brand thing I buy. And well, it's not store brand, it's name brand. And I'm glad I did. That just tastes, man, oh man. So, yeah, give this a try. Let me know if you do. Hands down, whether it's on Facebook or here in their comments, let me know, or let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on it. If you do try it, let me know if you liked it or not. I mean, was it great? Did you think, oh my God, you were just excited about it as I was? Or did you not, like it at all? I don't think you'll be disappointed though. So next week, as far as desserts go, it's going to be one of two things. We are going to either do a crustless pie, which is on B. Dylan Hollis's site. And he's a TikToker that is absolutely amazing. He takes really old recipes, I mean, from anywhere from 1900 to the 70s, and remakes them, and then he does his own twists. He's even got a cookbook coming out that I can't wait to get. But it's from 1963. I want to try that, but I also want to show you guys how to make this cookie dough. Neither of them take long to do. So we may do both. It may be a 2-in-1 video, or I may split it up, do 2 different videos. I haven't decided yet. Dinner-wise, Chris has asked me to make pad thai. Pad thai? I think that's what it is. If it's not right, I'll put it right here. But I'm pretty sure that's it. It's an Asian dish. And I want to do an authentic one. There's a bazillion recipes for it. Some are authentic, some not so much. Which means I'm going to have to go into town, so to speak, even though I live in a town, but I'll have to go to a bigger city and to an Asian market and buy the stuff to make it, which I'm going to do. So I'm shooting for that. But we'll see. If not, I don't know what we're going to make, but we'll figure it out. We always do. And I really hope you tried the dinner we made yesterday, that pizza pasta casserole. It was so good, and the family just absolutely loved it. They tore that casserole up. I tore that casserole up. I had 2 bowls myself. And somebody was in the fridge in the middle of the night grabbing some more. So, at any rate, till next week, where hopefully we're doing some pad thai and a wonderful crustless pie that, he says is fantastic. We're going to find out for ourselves. I love you. I love you very much, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, with the most sincerity. I thank you guys for taking time out of your day, because time is a precious commodity you never get back, to come and hang out with me, cook some good food, maybe not always the healthiest food, but good for you, good for your soul food. And, yeah, tell somebody else you love them, that you love them very much. Pass that on. It's going to make them feel a whole lot better. It's going to make their whole day. It's going to make you feel 1,000 times better to tell somebody that, see the smile on their face. Make one of these cheesecakes and share it with them. Guaranteed to put a smile on their face. And it will turn that frown upside down. They'll have the most amazing day ever. I guarantee it. And it'll lead to some good conversation. So, till next week, I love you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.